What do you tell authors who want to become career writers?
Authors who want to become career writers should really look at their budget and making sure that they can do that for a time where they might not be making income. It takes a while to actually recoup your investment. Being able to get an advance from a traditional publisher is the goal in that case. That's what an advance really was all about. And those advances, unfortunately, are getting smaller and smaller and aren't necessarily covering as much as they once did. But the whole idea was you got the literary agent, they got you the book deal. The publisher said, heck yeah, we want this book. Here's your $100,000 so you can spend the next year writing it. So that's kind of part of the goal, is the publishers with that advance would be able to fund the author's dream. Nowadays, that advance, or the idea of it, isn't nearly as lucrative as it once was. In some cases, it takes a while to, make that back. And if you're doing it the self-publishing or the entrepreneurial way, or with any kind of a small press, your advance might be minuscule, if anything. And again, if you're with a hybrid press or you're working on your own, you're the one who needs to be able to afford to live for a while. If you have a significant other, if maybe you've been able to save up a big enough nest egg so that you can do that for a year or so, that might be one way to do it. But I would just really look closely at your budget, your finances, to make sure that you're in a financial situation that can afford that.
And we've all heard famous stories of people getting that advance and not completing the book. And there's that too.
Yes.
And the pressure and maybe their own doubts, things like that come into play.
Yeah, exactly. That does happen as well.
What is an authorpreneur?
That's a self-published author. That's essentially a business in and of themselves. They're the ones who is doing, obviously, writing their own manuscript. Chances are they're doing the layout, the interior files, their metadata, their comp titles. They're putting it up on Amazon, Ingram Spark, all of the places. They are doing it almost all themselves. There's some varying degrees, because even the most talented authorpreneur, like a unicorn, nobody can be all things. So they might need help with their social media, or at least building their website and setting up some of their email marketing lists. In some cases, doing their own metadata or keyword research just might be outside of their skill set. And especially there are some things that most authorpreneurs probably really do need help with, like their book cover design and things like that. Not saying that there's not authors out there who can do that, but generally speaking, the authorpreneur is the one who does it all. They are not with a publisher at all. And maybe, just maybe, they will be the type that will hire one of those hybrid presses, because that way they're paying this team to essentially do the publishing aspect of it, while they can save time for some of the more creative or fun stuff that goes along with their author journey.
So if we go to the saying of what jack of all trades, master of none, it sounds like that we could run into that, but maybe out of necessity, financial necessity, they kind of have to be the chief cook and bottle washer for their business. And so if you feel that someone may be spreading themselves too thin, any advice on if money is an issue, how can they kind of lessen the burden for themselves?
Look at what they can do, what they're capable of doing. Look at the things that they absolutely are going to need to hire somebody to do. If they are absolutely not an artist and they need a professional book cover, they might want to allocate and budget for that. And look up. I mean, there's general prices in the market that you can, I do know of folks that will do a website for $2,000. Now, granted, I wouldn't recommend doing a website for $2,000, but it's probably better than no website at all. Another way to do it is tapping into your writing community. Again, if you're going to some of those writers' conferences, if you've got a writers group that you hang out with, or if you're with an organization, there might be other authors in there where you can trade some services. I know of authors who will trade, hey, I'm going to help you with your email marketing because I'm really good at MailChimp. I can get your MailChimp figured out. However, I know you're really good with social media and Instagram. Maybe you can give me some advice. So sometimes just trading out some of those services can be a good idea as well.
What are some pros and cons of being a writer with a day job?
It makes it really hard to do some of those fun things like those writing retreats and making sure you have enough time to devote to writing. Obviously, it takes bandwidth. Your day job is going to take 60% of your bandwidth, and then your family's going to take 20. And when you sit down after a long day, do you have the energy to go forward? There's a story of an author who was looking forward to his retirement because then he was going to have all the time in the world to write his manuscript. And he was a published author. He had written for many years while he had that day job. Couldn't wait to be able to devote 8-10 hours. And then the gardening came up and his wife needed some help with this, and they wanted to go on a cruise, and his productivity actually went down. Whereas before, during his professional career, he had put out 10 books. After he retired, he got one more book out there. And then, unfortunately, the end of life caught up with him. So I do suggest to folks to really, I think you're making a good point. Being out there in the world gives you that drive to get it done. If you have to squeeze out that extra hour at the end of the day, even though you're dead dog tired, then you're going to do it. Stephen King did it. I mean, he's a great example of somebody who he would write at night. He was teaching during the day and working his butt off. So I do think that getting out there into the real world, it's almost like exercise, right? It's like, we don't want to get up from that comfy couch and start stretching and walking and going to the gym. But then once we do it, once we're in it, we realize how it's invigorating for us. So I agree, getting out there in the real world and making sure that you're still working. And quite frankly, some of your best ideas might be coming from some of your coworkers and the people that you experience when you're walking down the street.
What if someone says, I don't want to do social media. I'm an author. I just want to write.
Then don't do it. You might be setting yourself up to not getting that book deal like you'd like. Again, if you're up against another author who has 10,000 Instagram followers, that's who they might go with. But in some cases, it doesn't make sense to force an author to go so far outside of their comfort zone that they're just going to be awkward and weird out there on social media. When TikTok first came out, even before it was Book Talk, because Book Talk kind of became a whole community in and of itself, I would often suggest to authors who would ask me, should I be on TikTok? It's the new latest thing. And I would say, are you ready to be a dancing author? Most of them said no, even though there's one or two that have gone on to do really cool things on TikTok. But the point is, if that is not a space that you feel comfortable in, then chances are it's going to show. But really look at some of the social media platforms that are out there, because you might find something that is right for you. I know a lot of authors who migrated from the place that used to be known as Twitter over to Blue Sky because they found community there. It's almost like an invigoration. It's like, oh, this is what it's like. And the next thing you know, you're hanging out with fellow writers and creatives and readers, and you're in a supportive environment. So that might actually be for you. The other thing to consider when we talk about Facebook and Instagram, owned by the same company known as Meta, a lot of folks know that, some don't. But if you're going to do one, you might as well do the other because they are interconnected. And it's very easy to post from one to the other and build audiences because of that connected tissue between the two. The other thing is, if you're going to do any kind of a digital marketing or advertising strategy, then you really want to have your business account using Meta. That you want to have a page, not a profile. So there's some strategic things there behind the scenes where you might say, I don't want to do social media as far as I don't want to post things and show people my food and my long walks on the beach. But then if you do want to do advertising, or if you want to hire somebody to come in and do your advertising, They need to have that profile in order to do it. So in some cases, social media isn't just about being social like that. It's having the platform set up so that you can do that advertising, because one thing is reliant on the other.
And what are your thoughts on paying to boost your posts? Certain platforms kind of bottom out after a while. Is it wise to do that, to boost a post?
Yes, and actually with Facebook, they will allow you to do that. And that's a great way to slowly build up your page. So especially if you're just starting out, if you just sign up, get a Facebook page. Nowadays, they are very diligent in making sure you're a real person and you're posting good stuff and you're not going to be violating their terms of service and their rules and things. So by doing some boosted posts along the way, you're letting their algorithm know what you're all about. You're giving them some signals that they can trust you, because the last thing you want to do is just start flooding it and not getting your posts seen. There's all sorts of safeguards that are in place behind the scenes that can make the strategy of boosting a few posts at a time kind of a way to work your way up so that you can do some more advanced or more strategic advertising.
Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. Here is a complimentary question from our book Story Questions.